Alabama at Wisconsin was always going to be an interesting matchup, but I don't think anybody anticipated how this game got this way. And this is a game in which two teams come in with not as much confidence as you maybe expected them to have coming into this game, but these are two teams that have high aspirations for this year. And this is going to be a very fun matchup to watch. Wisconsin is 2-0, Alabama is still 2-0, and you look at week one, Wisconsin struggles to beat Western Michigan. Last week, Alabama struggles to beat USF, but they're both 2-0. Now they play very different styles of football. Alabama's averaging 52 and a half points per game. Wisconsin's averaging 27 and a half. Now, this isn't a Wisconsin offense that can be explosive. We've just yet to see it. Alabama is this, they won 42-16 last week, but it was closer than a lot of people wanted it to be. But the fact that you have elite players more so than USF helped them in a big way. Now, this is going to be a very interesting game to watch because the matchups are just very different than what Alabama saw last week, as well as what Wisconsin saw the last 2 weeks. Alabama comes in this game as a 15 and a half point favorite. That is pretty telling about where these two teams are. And it should be surprising to see these two teams at this point. Wisconsin is a team that is going to play pretty good defense, but they're going to struggle to find explosive plays. And the one thing that they don't have that USF did is going to be a mobile quarterback. Now, Tyler Van Dyke technically can run, but he is not going to burn you with his legs. And that's something that USF had in Byron Brown that Alabama does not have to worry about this year. The burning question for each side. Wisconsin's going to be, can they actually win the big one? This is a Wisconsin team under Luke Fickell that has been dying to have this kind of a game go in their favor. And it's at home. So this is going to be a great atmosphere, a very exciting atmosphere. But do they have it in them to win a game like this? Do they have the ability to shock everyone and pull off the upset? Now, this is an Alabama team that had its letdown game last week. Does that mean that they are in store for another one? Probably not. It feels like that was kind of the time to get them. And now they're going to have a much better game. What do they have in terms of talent to slow down Jalen Milroe? That's probably the biggest question for Wisconsin outside of can you win the big one, but also do you have the talent to slow down Jalen Milroe? Now, if I'm Wisconsin, I am basically just trying to keep him in check. If you have someone athletic enough to cover him, then put a spy on him or just make sure that your rush lanes are disciplined where you're going to get a good pressure, but you're not going to let Jalen Milroe escape. If you're not able to get him around the edge, don't just take yourself out of the play. That's probably going to be the biggest thing. For Alabama, the biggest question is can you move on from last week and can Milroe be more efficient with his production? And Wisconsin has a very good defense, and they are going to make life very difficult for this team. But Alabama has plenty of talent to make life better. I think that actually the biggest question I want to know is can we take care of the football? There were so many times where Alabama just got lazy and was undisciplined last week and gave the football right back to USF. Now, against a really good team, that's going to result in more points than what USF was able to do. You cannot do that anymore. You cannot you just can't. You can't give the ball back to your opponent. In Wisconsin, in that atmosphere in Camp Randall, those fans are going to be nuts. You're going to give them more opportunities to scream their heads off. That is not going to go over well for you. And this is an Alabama team that needs to figure some things out, and turning the ball over isn't going to do that. The biggest matchup, honestly, I want to put Jalen Milroe versus Tyler Van Dyke because that is just going to be such a fun matchup to watch. But I think that when you look at what Alabama has outside, it's going to be the passing attack that we keep an eye on. That's going to be something that we pay attention to. And it's going to be a group that is going to press guys on Wisconsin in that secondary. So Ricardo Hallman, whoever he guards, whether that's Ryan Williams, Kobe Prentice, probably just put the Wisconsin secondary against Alabama's wide receivers. That to me is going to play a big role in determining who wins this football game because Alabama has some explosive weapons. Ryan Williams, the freshman, being one of them. Wisconsin has very underrated talent in the secondary. And if they can't move the ball through the air, that gives you a lot more confidence up front to get after Jalen Milroe, to make him uncomfortable. and to find ways to slow him down. Now, when you're looking at the players to watch, there's a lot for Wisconsin. You have to stay with Tyler Van Dyke. 406 yards and 1 touchdown so far this year. He has not been as exciting as we hoped he might be. We clearly are not seeing freshman Tyler Van Dyke, and that's kind of disappointing, but this is an opportunity for him to play big in a big game. Ches Malusi and Tawi Walker, those are two guys that could be very fun to watch, but you also have Katie Yakameli, who's averaging 9 yards per carry. You have players that can step up for Wisconsin. You have depth, and you just obviously need to keep everyone healthy. But if you are, you have a good rushing attack that feels pretty good. Will Pauling is the leader so far through 2 games for this passing attack. Someone else can step up, though. CJ Williams is averaging 26.5 yards per catch, but he only has 2 catches. So that's it for the offense. The offensive line obviously is going to have their hands full with the defensive line. That could be honestly the matchup to watch. That dictates a lot, in my opinion. The defensive side of the ball for Wisconsin, Jaheim Thomas is very fun to watch. Hunter Wohler, once again, is leading the team in tackles. We talked about Ricardo Hallman. We talked about a number of players that are going to have their hands full. You'll see what happens with this group when they face Alabama. It's going to be very fun to watch. It's going to be a group that has their hands full with the explosive weapons that the Crimson Tide bring, but they are going to provide their own challenges for Alabama. Now, on the Alabama side of things, everything starts with Jalen Milroe, from ball security to production to explosive plays. Jalen Milroe can do everything. Jalen Milroe can be that guy that does everything for this offense. And honestly, Jalen DeBoer is trying to make it that way. It's easy to see why you would give him the football more, and it's easy to see why they want him to be so involved. But he has to be efficient. He has to be able to move the ball down the field through the air, and he has to take care of the football. Last week was obviously a very disappointing performance for Alabama. They're looking to bounce back in what is going to be a very tough game for this team. On the defense side of the ball, Jihad Campbell and Deontay Lawson came into this year as two of the better linebackers in the SEC, and they are going to be really fun to watch against Wisconsin. Wisconsin still very much wants to run the football despite this being a different offense, and they are going to play big roles there. Tim Keenan last week, honestly, when Alabama needed a good push and a big play, he was the guy that stepped up in a big way. He was someone that played really well, and I expect him to do the same for them this week. And this is going to be really fun to watch. If Wisconsin truly is a team that can compete with the likes of Alabama, and let's be honest, even though Alabama struggled last week, this is still very much a team that expects to be in the college football playoff and is going to require a special type of performance from the team they're facing. Wisconsin is clearly not on that level, but they are looking to make a statement that says, yes, we can compete with the likes of Alabama and we can beat the likes of Alabama. If they can truly do that, that is going to be really fun to watch. They need to, the biggest thing is take care of the ball, move the ball down the field early, and make plays early. If you are struggling to move the ball against Alabama, that crowd is going to be so quiet. And if you're the opposite, if you're finding ways to create turnovers, if you're finding ways to make plays, Camp Randall is going to be insane. And we've seen what happens to teams that are favored when they're coming into a atmosphere like Camp Randall, and that place is buzzing. If you find ways to continue that excitement from the pregame well into the first half, Wisconsin feels like they're in good hands. The momentum would swing in their favor, and that's when things would get interesting. I just don't know if that happens. I think that if you were going to get Alabama, it was last week, and USF couldn't do it. Now they're going to bounce back and play a little bit better. We'll see what Caden Proctor's status is coming into this game. So there's a lot of questions about Alabama. I'm not saying that it's impossible for Wisconsin to win, but I'm saying that you're going to need a special performance. You're going to need a smart and efficient performance. But if you're able to do that, Wisconsin feels like they're in really good hands to pull off an upset that would send shockwaves through college football.